I think that when I was there, people would say I was a crypto hawk. We effectively shut down the ICO craze, said that most of what I'm seeing is securities activity. But I do think we are having very blunt conversations about something that requires nuance. Crypto is really a technology. The use of blockchain technology in all sorts of aspects of our financial system should be not controversial. The allegations in the cases, again, in FTX and in Binance, it's reprehensible behavior. Nobody wants it in our financial system. But it's not on the blockchain. It's commingling, it's fraudulent representations to the extent true or not. It's not as if the technology failed or the technology had some sort of fundamental problem.
I need to ask you about crypto because you had some exposure to FTX just yesterday, and in the past now it would be 36 hours, the SEC has filed two major lawsuits, one against Binance and one against Coinbase.
I've read all the charges. I've read both complaints. They are two different complaints. What's going on against Binance is those are really, really serious and alleged
commingling of consumer funds
and directly charging the founder, who's an entrepreneur that created a lawless environment. That's what the two things should happen. If you're a shareholder or a board member of Coinbase, I'd swap leadership. I'd get a new person to run it and go back into the staff and say, we got to work this out. Because the whole industry's been stymied for 3 years. We'll never get capital appreciation until an institution can invest. I've talked to sovereign wealth. I've talked to institutions in the last 48 hours. You know what they've said? This makes this asset class radioactive waste. We are not going to touch this until this thing's resolved. So here's a company that could resolve it. They claim they're the leaders. Well, if the leader of that company, and I'm not pulling any punches. If he was working for me, I'd fire him. I'd get somebody else.
You're talking about the head of Coinbase.
Yes, it's over. It's so over, it's almost getting boring. Gensler has told him countless times, no, 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 and no. And everybody hears it except him. So maybe what you do, and you thank him for his great work as a pioneer.
You're supposed to do that if you want something done in Washington.
Well, you take him out behind the barn and you make the swap. You get a new CEO at Coinbase to go back in there and say, let's make a deal. Because look at it this way. If you could walk in right now and say, okay, Gensler, you win. Let's regulate this. Let's call it a security. You get $1 trillion worth of assets for an allocation of just 3% in sovereign wealth. You could open the spigots. You could really make this industry take off and own it domestically. But read the tea leaves, read the room, listen, read Gensler's lips. The answer is no.
Sergey, thank you so much for joining us on Crypto World today. So Chainlink just announced a new partnership with interbank payment processor SWIFT. Walk me through the announcement and tell me why you're teaming up.
Absolutely. It's a very exciting development that we've been working on for many years. We've been working with many of the participants for over 7 years, and this is the second collaboration that we're having with SWIFT, so it's actually progressing much further than before this time. Basically, we're working together with SWIFT, DTCC, Euroclear, and some of the world's largest banks like Citi, BNP Paribas, and large custodians like BNY Mellon to see how blockchains can be used within their largest categories of transactions. And this means that basically the idea that each of them would have their own kind of chains, and then those chains would need to be connected to by them. So their systems need to get connected to those chains, and the chains need to get connected between each other. And then the chains also need to get connected to public blockchains in order to have access to that market.
Okay, so this is a proof of concept that we're talking about. What are you looking for to make this, what would make this a successful test?
So this is actually the second proof of concept. So it's not the first, and this is a much more advanced one with over 10 participants and some of the largest banks in the world and the largest market infrastructures. So it's a more advanced proof of concept. I think the thing that we think it'll show is that you can efficiently use existing infrastructure like SWIFT messages to utilize multiple blockchains through one integration. By using something like Chainlink to interact with those hundreds of blockchains in an efficient way. I think we'll be able to show that moving value across chains can be done efficiently and securely. And I think we'll show that through that same interface, you can move value into public chains, which means that bank chains can gain access to public blockchains relatively easily using that Chainlink CCIP protocol and interface.